Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back. This is probably going to describe you or somebody you know in many different regards. You feel stuck in life. Maybe you're dealing with a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. Things are just not the way you think that they should be. There should be more out there. You should be feeling more joy, or you're just kind of just going along and it's okay, but it's not exactly the way it should be. Or you're just afraid to make some changes that you know inside is the right answer. You probably are dealing with a trauma and that's holding you back. And you may say, nah, I never had a trauma. It's impossible. That's not true. And we're going to talk about that today. There's all different types of traumas, and there's also an amazing coach to help work through that. And once you hear what traumas really are, you're going to say, wow, yeah, I have one, five more. It's interesting when you start studying this and going down that road, and she's been there. She's an amazing coach. She is Laurie Kroeger, and she joins us on the program. Welcome back.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate that.
Wonderful to have you here. And just getting this into the public about traumas, it was a game changer for me when I learned it. Not like I had, a horrible childhood, but when I identified stuff that went on and what I call connecting the dots, why I was doing this in adult life because of this, when I was 6 or whatever. Wow, when you make that connection. So when we say trauma, in my mind, it's little t trauma, then there's big T trauma, right? So how do you define trauma?
So with trauma, it's any event in your life that has left a mark. With trauma, it often creates a new belief system inside of us. So those stressful events, and sometimes they're long-lived events, sometimes they're really short, sometimes it's literally a minute in time and we just don't even realize it. And then those are really your little T's. Your big ones are, that my father was murdered, my parents abused me. Those are your big traumas. And so, but everybody has a little bit of trauma. A small trauma could just be that your mom was there for the first 9 months of your life and she had to go to work. So you felt an abandonment. And then there was a behavior that followed that. That learned behavior then becomes a belief system. And that's where a lot of jealousy comes in. So there's different behaviors that come along with these belief systems.
I never thought of it that way, that there could be other things floating in from the little trauma, if you will, how that's going to impact you. We got that. But other things. So, for example, let's say mom and dad paid more attention to a sibling and not you. And, there might have been one event that you identify connected to that. And that's your little T trauma. And that's kind of piloted you over here. But at the same time, now you have jealousy. Now you have resentment to that sibling because they were the prized one. So now you got more going on here. I never thought of it that way.
Well, and it could have just been, like I said, that one moment in time where that older brother, that little sister was sick and you didn't know it. So yeah, they doted on them a little bit more that day. But that followed you through the rest of your life.
Yeah. Yeah. Or it's my understanding that most of us believe we're not good enough. And that could come from you're 7, you do a painting, the sky, you made it green. Mom takes a look at it, dad, whatever. And they say, oh, that's really good. Come on now. The sky's blue. It's not green. You could do better than that. I know you can. So now you think, oh, it's not good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. And then the snowball down the hill gets bigger and bigger by the time you get bigger and bigger.
Yeah. And that actually happened. So I was singing with my sister in my room. We were jumping on our bed. And my mom's like, wow, Kim, you're doing an amazing job. Laurie, don't quit your J job. She was being funny, but I did not sing. I would not get into choir. I would not do anything. I was about 8 or 9 years old. And it was my little sister. Now she does have a voice of an angel. Okay. I love her. And it wasn't until I was in my late 30s, early 40s that I actually started singing again. And now I sing karaoke and I have a lot of fun with it. I had to understand where that came from. It was a tiny piece of trauma. It was that tiny piece that says, you're not good enough. Don't ever do that. Don't quit your day job.
Hmm. Wow. and and our parents don't mean to hurt us. They might be trying to be funny. They don't realize the impact that it has. If I could go back armed with all this knowledge in my journey, I would be a different parent.
100%. We all would.
Yeah, like
And it was,
totally.
it was because of my child that I chose this path.
Hmm. Yeah. You just brought back a memory. So when I was younger, I loved to draw, wanted to be a syndicated cartoonist. When I was 22, I came very close. I also wanted to be on the radio, and I got my first radio job at 17 and it's just kind of leaned off on the drawing. 11th grade, Mrs. Meyer. I'm doing painting, big painting, barn scene, autumn, field, lead your eye to the barn. Was having trouble with the sky, just wasn't coming out right. She comes walking by. I just remembered this. And I have this painting in a storage shed. I saved it. And Miss Meyer, love her with her coffee breath. I asked her, I said, can you show me how to paint the sky? It's just not coming out right. She takes the brush, does a great job. I said, yeah, this came out great. She goes, you know what you are? You are an underachiever. And I never forgot that. So I good or bad, it made a mark on me. Maybe it made me try harder, but at the same time, it made me feel that I may not be good enough.
Mhm. That's
Hmm.
exactly how it works.
Wow.
And it can be, so my friend Kathy Riley actually wrote a book, and she calls these voices that we have inside of our head the itty bitty shitty committee.
That's great.
And it's the teachers, it's the strangers, it's the family, it's the aunts, it's the uncles, it's all these people. I like to call them the mind mom. They are the lynch group that comes in and takes over your thoughts, and they get very abusive. And we need to let them go. We need to fire all of them, kick them out, and learn how to listen to the voices that are important.
Hmm. Easier said than done.
100%.
Hmm.
It takes time, it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of practice.
Now, there are different modalities to figure this stuff out, if you will, right?
There is,
Hmm.
there's a couple of them. Mhm.
Which ones do you use in your coaching?
So I focus mostly on people who have already been through therapy. So these
Yeah.
wounds can be touched, and they're not going to trigger those responses anymore. But I focus on, we're not playing a bullshit game. I don't know, can I say that on here? We're not playing the BS, okay? When you say that, oh, this triggered me, or this makes me sad, or this, we're going to talk about it and we're going to walk through it. We are going to face it head on. That's the best way to understand how it's been holding you back. I don't play games.
Well, you play games, you're going to win a crappy prize. It's like
Well, and
if you're
that's it.
serious about changing your life and you've been through therapy, and that's all good, but therapy kind of ends at one point where I believe coaching picks up. Therapy is going to help you make those realizations. Coaching is going to be it's going to hold you accountable.
Yes,
What are you doing about it? How are you figured out through the therapy, you identified what the limiting belief was. It was the sky painting or whatever it was. And that's just one. I'm sure there's many.
many of them.
How are we going to fix that? What are you going to do about that? Are you never going to paint again? Are you never going to be creative again? Are you never going to express yourself again? Are you always going to feel like you're not good enough? No, no. And these are the steps.
Exactly. The first thing we really focus on is working on that decluttering process. And one of the unique things about being a trauma informed life coach is that no, I'm not going to put up with that BS, but there is a lot more empathy and a lot more compassion behind it.
Hmm.
There's this understanding that, you know what, that hurt for a really long time. and it's
Yeah.
not going to change in one day. And so we work through that decluttering. We work through getting rid of that itty bitty shitty committee and understanding where our belief systems come. We develop a plan. We develop a life that you want to live. And then we start to design how that's going to happen.
In your opinion, why are we designed this way that somebody can say something and then we take it to heart? And it, as a kid, it shapes and molds us for the rest of our lives, potentially. Why we're so perfect? We're amazing machines. We can, I believe this is what pilots me. All I need is within me now. You have everything you need. There's a reason we've been here for thousands of years. You got it all in here. Yeah, you need an answer to a problem. Need to pick a choice, A, B. You already know the answer. It's here. You got to hear it. You got to listen. Heal yourself. You can do that. I've done it. It works. However, we're so superior. How did this happen? That somebody could say something. You pass by the kitchen and hear a comments that not even made for you, and now it's stuck with you. Why?
Well, I definitely have some opinions on that. They might not be the most popular opinions, but I believe that we are in a mental pandemic. With all of the drugs that we've been given, all of the prescriptions, all of the belief systems, all of the church, all of the political, all of those things that we have been fed through our life breaks us down. And we don't know that the brain is the most powerful thing in our body. And the ability that our mind has to heal us is absolutely amazing. I'm really deep diving into that now. It's mind blowing. It's crazy.
I agree. And I wish I paid attention to it years ago. I remember I fell out of a ceiling. Won't get into the details. I was coming down with a boogie board down the steps. This is probably 2011. And I impacted on the cement of the garage. And it gave me fortunately I didn't get hit. Didn't break anything, road rash coming down the steps and all that. And that impact gave me a nasty wart on my foot. Like, what the heck? Like, how does this even happen? Podiatrist, not going away. Go back again. It's not going away. Go back again. He's like, listen, just will it to go away. Just in your mind, you want it to go away. I'm like, I'm paying this guy a copay. This guy's a freak. So I tried it. And in a day and a half, it went away.
Yeah.
And that was my interesting. And now along the way, if you think those things, potentially, you can heal yourself. Now, I don't disagree with the things that are being fed to us, but have we always had these limiting beliefs? Go back 300 years. The little house on the prairie. And, mom says something while, Maggie May is churning butter. And did she have a limiting belief back then too?
She did. And so what we're really learning in the most recent studies is how our brain develops. And that, as we are growing and developing, we learn. Obviously, we learn how to walk by watching people walk. We learn how to speak by listening to other people speak. And so we learn different behaviors from different people. And that's where a lot of our abuse comes in right now. Our parents learned it from their parents from their parents, their parents from their parents.
Yeah.
And each cycle, I'm not going to do that to my kids. It's a little bit different. Each cycle, a little bit different. I'm not going to do that to my kids. There's just a different trauma. I was a helicopter mom. After everything that I had been through in my life, I did everything for my kid. I wanted him to be the happiest, most successful, loved child in the world. But what I did was I stole his confidence. I never gave him that ability to solve his own problems.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just created a different trauma.
But it came from a good place. You weren't trying to harm. You were just, we feel guilty that we work so much. So we want to give our kids everything, maybe that we didn't have. So here, take this iPad. You have this, you have that. Well, now they have no social skills. I get it. And I think all parents, I hate to use the word guilty, but we're all guilty of it. We all do it. And maybe our parents did the same exact thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's just the cycle that we're in. At one point, I believe that there is a generation or a group of people that understood how our mind worked. But over time that has just melted away. We forget if it's not used, it's gone.
Right.
Don't use it, you lose it.
Yep. Yeah.
And I think that's just where we've progressed in our world today.
Tell me about your journey.
So I was actually adulting before I could legally drink. So I was raised with 3 sets of parents. Now, mind you, I thought all of this was normal. I thought I lived a normal childhood life. Okay. But I was raised with 3 sets of parents. So I never had a sense of belonging. Didn't discover that till I was in my 40s. That was great. We moved about every 2 to 3 years of our lives. My dad was in the military. However, I lived with my mom. And she says that we just lived the gypsy life. We like to move around. She liked the change. And so we moved every couple of years of our life. And then, so by the time I was 16, I ran away from home. I got married. I had my daughter at 18. And lo and behold, I was divorced by 20. That's kind of what happens when you marry so young.
Mm-hmm.
And so before I could even legally drink, I had already been through a world of adulting. So I started finding ways to do things different. I gave up custody of my daughter because I was 20 years old. I didn't have a clue. So I sent her to live with her dad. I lost custody of my son a couple years later. And then I helicopter parented the 3rd child. And with each step, I tried to do better. I knew there was something else. But when my last son tried to take his life, I knew there was something better. There was something different that I had to be doing. And so I started to really deep dive and understand how our body works, how our brain works, where that trauma comes from. And that's why I've decided to go down this path. And I created a company in 2019. And my goal at that point was to create, I wanted fast food managers to be nice. Okay. I wanted to teach them how to play nice with their employees. Needless to say, with their mindset, that was not a thing that was going to happen. So we modified and really started focusing on that individual person and understanding how they can create a difference in their environment, in their world, with their people, just by making a few changes that make them happy. It's not about changing somebody because you think the world needs to be better. They're making changes that make their life better, which then ripples, and it makes the people around them better. And those people around them ripple, and it makes their life better. It's amazing what that one little ripple can do. And that's why I chose this path.
Wow.
And that's why I own Visible Potential.
Great name, by the way.
Thank you.
And even being able to get the domain visiblepotential.com, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Kudos to you.
That was crazy. I was pretty happy about that.
I would think it would have been by now they're all taken. So, good going on that. Isn't it interesting and gratifying when you have that aha moment and you realize why you do what you do based on your past love? It took you to your 40s, took me even older to I'm not even 40 yet, not kidding, to realize some of these things, and they weren't surprises because what you went through. And I had hypnotherapy, and that was quite impactful. But it wasn't like I saw images I never saw before. I just saw them clearer, and I connected some of the dots, from then to now. And it takes time. It's not going to be an overnight thing. If this is somebody's looking for, a coaching quick fix, bye-bye, it's not going to happen. No. You got to do the work. And I know that's such a cliche.
It is.
But it's my belief everything is work. You got plans for the week. What are you doing this weekend? Well, what time do you want to meet there? We got to figure this out. Where do you want to go? Who else is going? Blah, 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 blah. Work. Even though it's play, it's work. It's all work. And there's nothing wrong with that. Breath work. They call it breath work and meditation because you have to work at it to get better at it. But whoa, what a difference it makes once you do the work. When you do work with somebody, how long does it typically, everybody's different. How long does it typically take to see some progression?
So it usually takes at least 3 to 4 good sessions.
Mhm.
You know, that's somebody that comes in on day one and they're very trusting, they open up and they're ready to rock and roll. And usually by the second session, I've made them cry. And by this third session, they have threatened to fire me because I pissed them off.
Mm,
And that's a really good progression. You know, it never stays there, but that's where they start to realize that awareness. And they can start looking at themselves going, oh, crap. Okay. Yeah, I did that. That's where that behavior comes. That's
that's
why I get so angry about ... And then we start really moving forward and rock and rolling with the program.
Yep. Yep. Even to the point of why you pick certain people in your life in relationships,
Mm-hmm.
why you pick certain partners. The same, person keeps showing up. There's a reason for that. And usually it's traced back to, amazingly, your childhood.
Yep, it is. Mine
Yeah.
were. I've been married 4 times.
Gotcha. And
And
yeah.
they were all of them had their same issues. Now, this one I have fought for a lot more. We've been married now, coming up, in 9 days will be
Wow.
14 years
Oh,
that we've
wow.
been together. We've been married 11. Yeah.
Wow. Hmm.
So I fought for
Wait,
this one.
wait, but you also learned the skills along the way.
Yeah, it
I
did.
figured it out.
Yeah, I can't
Um,
tell you. I think I broke the world record and how many times I have threatened to divorce him now. I was raised with 3 sets of parents. You don't like, you leave.
well, mhm. Isn't it amazing how the things that we learned as kids pilot us out? Would you say everything, the majority, it all comes from the childhood?
It does.
Yeah.
It really, there are some bigger traumas that do happen later in life. You know, those are a lot
Oh,
of your
sure.
big T's. And it's those little T's that build up those belief systems that create the stress, the worry, the anxiety, the
Yeah, yeah.
fear that we face now.
But usually the later in life big T's that show up, you know what they are and why you do what you do. Like, for example, you could have had a mishap on a plane, or whatever it might be, and now you're afraid to get on a plane. You know you traced it back, but other people are afraid to get on a plane and don't know why. It's probably something from their childhood. Might not even be related to an airplane, but it's there. We're out of time.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Already? Okay.
Yeah.
That was fantastic.
How do we connect with you, Laurie? If somebody's hearing this, they know that they, have some stuff going on, at least at the very least, even just to talk about it, start the initial conversation. How do they find you?
So they can go right to my webpage, visiblepotential.com, or they can email me directly at info@visiblepotential.com. That way they don't have to try to spell my name right. Or they can just look me up on Facebook and follow me there.
Cool.
I will absolutely respond to messages.
Last name is Kroeger, and I think I have trauma from that last name from the movies.
They're just a lot nicer.
Exactly. Right. And looks nothing like the other Kruger.
Thank you.
Wonderful,
That's
wonderful, much prettier. Wonderful talking with you. Learned a lot. For me, it also backed up a lot of things that I wondered about and thought about, in my journey, and lots more to talk about in healing. And looking forward next time we get together.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to it. I'm really excited.
Same. All right, we're coming right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.